Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today we're going to be doing a recent read / October wrap up. So I've split my October wrap up into two because I read quite a few books in October, so I didn't want this video to be like over an hour long because my wrap ups basically always used to be like 55 minutes. But I've recently decided, after a spree of recent reads over the kind of early autumn, because I was bad at filming videos and then I was just catching up, and I was kind of splitting it went American then splitting it into like groups of 10. I thought that's the better way of doing it, and then the videos aren't like overwhelmingly long. And if you want to know all the books I've read, then you can just watch 2 videos. So yeah, so this is the first half. Some of these I actually read like at the end of September because I filmed my September wrap up in like the 23rd or something. But yeah, October was a little bit more chill for me than September, so I read quite a few more books because I was on my GP placement, which I really enjoyed, but we had Fridays off, so that, well, I think they were meant to be for self-study, but I'm not too worried about exams yet because they're not for like 4 months, which isn't that long, but in medical school world it's a long time because you have to rest between exams. So I was basically having 3-day weekends, which was great. I won't be able to do that next year, but I might as well enjoy it while I can. So yeah, let's just get started on the books I read. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Mercies by Karen Millward Hargrave. This book is like an absolute dust magnet. I don't know why. It's such a pretty cover. I really like it, and the designs on the back and stuff. I wonder if it has any, oh no, it's just like a wavy design. But anyway, this is basically following this island in northern Norway called Vargo. I actually believe it's a real island, and I think this book is actually like based on true events. And basically one day there's this massive storm and all the men in the village die because they've gone out fishing for some reason, and then they all die in this storm. So now all the women are just left and they have to try and fend for themselves. But then like a year or two later, this priest guy, kind of, he's like a priest. Yeah, anyway, a religious man shows up and is there then trying to like convert the women to religion. I'm pretty sure it's Christianity. And along with him is his new like young wife who's been sort of forced into this marriage. So we're kind of following her, and then also one of the women on the island who's been abandoned by all the men. Well, not abandoned, they died, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's really interesting, just the kind of dynamics of the women in the village and the different sort of alliances and attitudes that are made. And then also obviously the themes of religion. I really like that, and I think there's an element of horror to this. Like, it's definitely a bit creepy, and I always love like cold creepy because like it's really cold. It's this basically, yeah, the North Pole. And I really like that element to it. And yeah, I was reading this around the same time I was watching Midnight Mass. So yeah, that kind of whole religious horror, like a new priest showing up in the village, was really good. Although this one isn't quite as, shall we say, supernatural. But no, I thought it was really good. The writing's very like beautiful and atmospheric, and there's a little sapphic relationship as well, which was good and just added a little bit of extra like spice to the plot. But I actually really enjoyed it. I often find in like more literary novels, relationships are like hit or miss for me, but I really like this one, so yeah, that definitely added to the book for me. So that's that one. Okay, and then I also read Wings of Shadow by Nikki Powell-Preto, and this is the last book in the Crown of Feathers series. I'm not quite sure what the whole series is called. It might just be Crown of Feathers. But I love this series so much. It's definitely one of my like favourite YA series. Oh, I forgot to say ratings. So I gave The Mercies 4 stars and this one 5 stars. Yeah, I just loved it. It was like a great conclusion. I love all the characters. The first one basically following this girl called Veronica, who really wants to be a Phoenix Rider, but she can't join the Phoenix Riders because she's a girl, they only take boys, so she pretends to be this Nick and goes to train as a Phoenix Rider. But she also has this magic, which means she can talk to animals, but this magic in the world is like persecuted. And then up to this point, Veronica's been living with her kind of semi-abusive sister called Val. The relationship actually is really interesting, and as the books go on, and then in this book, the character of Val, her arc is very interesting. If you know me, you know the kind of characters I like. But I also really love Veronica. She's this really sweet cinnamon roll, and I really like seeing a female character, especially in YA, just use their like kindness and goodness to achieve what they want. And then there's some really cute like cinnamon roll boy characters as well. I love Tristan. And yeah, Sever and Cade as well, who are like spies. They kind of have a separate plot line, but I also love them. I just love them all. And actually, Crown of Feathers is a webtoon which is free to read, so I'd highly recommend it. I've been reading the Crown of Feathers webtoon, and it's like memories because that's like book 1 and I was reading book 3 at the same time. But also I would really highly recommend it. The art is so stunning and the phoenixes are so cute. Yeah, I love the phoenixes as well. I love like animal companions, so yeah, I would just highly recommend this series. And yeah, I was not let down at all by the conclusion. I just loved it. And like all the characters and how much they've grown and all. I'm so proud of them. Anyway, yeah, so that's that one. Then I read, so I read these slightly apart, but I put them together because they're the same series. So I read The Consuming Fire and The Last Emprox, which are books 2 and 3 in the Interdependency series, I think. So the first one's called The Consuming Fire, which I read in September. And it's basically the sci-fi world where all different like solar systems are connected by this thing called the flow. But in book 1, the flow starts collapsing, and that's kind of the main conflict. And basically it's really like different kind of, we're following about 3 or 4 different main characters, and they're all from kind of slightly different political factions, and they're basically all trying to one-up each other to like gain control of the empire. But we kind of have some good characters and then some slightly more bad characters, but there is a character who's like balls to the wall evil, but I actually love her. Yeah, I just really like all the characters. We're following Cardinia, who is like the Emperor's daughter, and at the start of book 1 she then becomes the new Emprox. So she is kind of now in charge, and this whole thing is going on, so she has to try and manage that. And then we're also following Kiva, who's like the heir to this house, and she's sort of running a con herself, but she's also trying to root out cons. So she's a lot going on, but she's a great character as well. And then yeah, there's this house called the Northamptons, and they're like stirring up drama basically and trying to take over the like solar system. So that's kind of what the stories are about. But I really enjoyed them. The writing style is so funny. I really like John Scalzi, I think that's how you say it's writing. And the characters are great as well. So yeah, I would just highly recommend the series. I gave them all 4.5 stars, all the books in this series, because they just didn't quite have that 5-star. I think maybe because they're quite short, so they're only about 300 pages each, so they read super quick. And I think for me to like truly love a book, it would be like it would have to just be a bit longer. But I feel like if you took them all as one big book, then that would be like a 5-star book. I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, I really enjoy it. There's actually quite a lot of interesting discussion, especially around politics, almost lies that people in power tell to save people from themselves. But there's also kind of a lot of just drama as well, which makes it really entertaining to read. So yeah, I would highly recommend this series if you haven't read it already. I've never read any of his other books. I'm definitely interested, although I think Nicole had read one and didn't like it that much, but she said the main character was annoying, so maybe I'll avoid that one. But I'm definitely interested in more of his books. And actually I read these physically, but I believe the audiobook is narrated by like Will Wheaton, who also does the Martian audiobook, and I really like the Martian audiobook, so I feel like these would be really good on audio as well. So that's that one. So then after that I read the audiobook of The Inheritance of Okidia Divina, which I really enjoyed. I gave it like 3.75/4 stars. I think for me it's quite a literary book, which is not always my absolute favourite, but I did really enjoy it. The main character of Okidia is such a like icon. Basically the book is kind of following 2 timelines. So it's her when she's old, and she's sort of gathered all her family together because she's sort of dying. And then we're also following flashbacks to like her childhood and her growing up. And she reminds me of Evelyn Hugo. Just that whole sort of, she's almost created this mythos around herself for her family, because we're also following 2 of her sort of grandchildren. I would say they're probably the main characters of the story, but like Okidia is the kind of the driving force of the story. But the 2 grandchildren, whose names I've forgotten, but I like them both. I think one of them is called Ray. The other one begins with an M maybe. But yeah, so they're basically also trying to hunt down, well not hunt down, but like find out what secrets their grandma's been keeping. And like there's this whole family sort of legacy / curse type thing going on. and it's that kind of like whimsical magic, like the magic's never really explained, it's just sort of there, which I actually really liked. And like especially some of the sort of naturey magic I really liked. Writing's just very beautiful. It's a very sort of atmospheric book to read, and I think it's a great book to read around autumn time as well. But yeah, and it explores a lot of like family dynamics and different relationships between different sort of family members, like especially Okidia and her mother. They had quite a sort of tumultuous relationship, and then Okidia and her then husband also had a very tumultuous relationship, and they're kind of explored in the past, and that is really interesting. And then now like in the present timeline, seeing Okidia as like an old lady, as almost the matriarch of this big family, is really cool. Just the whole dynamics I really liked. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that one as well, especially if you like the more sort of lyrical, slightly more literary but with a little bit of magic like sprinkled in. What's the word? Is it magical realism? I'm not sure, but yeah, that kind of thing. And then I read The Bone-Shard Emperor, which I gave 4.5 stars to, and this is the sequel to The Bone-Shard's Daughter. And I read an arc of this. I don't think it's out till like the end of November. But I really enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed it more than book one, just because, I mean, I really like book one, but this one just felt a little bit more like confident, and the author like knew what she was doing a bit more. But I mean, she knows what she's doing in book one, but it just felt more like confident. I don't really know how to explain it, like intentional in a way, I don't know. I guess it's like the difference between Elantris and the Stormlight Archive. Like I don't know how to explain it exactly, but you can just sort of tell the author's like developed, which I thought was really good to see. I really like the characters. I especially like Lynn a lot more in this book. So I liked her in book one, but like the highlight for me in book one was Javis and Mephi. But then in this one, I really like Lynn. And I like learning more about like the magic. The magic's really cool in the world. So there's kind of almost two different forms of magic. There's these like bone shard magic. Basically, everyone gets tied these little bone shards. It's from somewhere around the like mastoid area. Then people with this magic can then like drain that life energy to like power bone constructs, which is really interesting. But at the same time, there's these people who like have sort of elemental magic, and they've sort of gone missing from the world. I don't know if that's really the thing, but in this book a lot of the central mystery is like what's happened to them. Like they're starting to come back, so it's like, ooh, what's this going on? And then there's these really cute creatures called Osselen. I'll try and find a picture, one of whom is Mephi, who is the cutest animal companion. I love him, and just his like sass and stuff. And then there's also a couple more that we meet in this book. Well, no, we met one in book one. I think her name's Thrana or something like that. Who's Lynn's like Osselen, and I love her as well. And then another little one called Shark, who we meet, who I think is going to be great in book three. But yeah, so I really like that, and I liked the kind of development of the plot. And like I always love it when there's like some sort of mysterious like magical beings who are sort of coming back, and like the characters are discovering it as we are. So I just really enjoyed it. I like Andrea Stewart's writing. It's very sort of comforting in a way. Like it's not super purpley and it's not super simple. It's like very kind of just, you read it and it's like almost nostalgic feeling, like you feel like you're reading like a classic fantasy, even though it's not. It's quite a modern, fresh fantasy, but it just gives you those like cozy vibes. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I would definitely recommend that series. Highly enjoyed. And there's a established sapphic relationship as well. They're a slightly separate like plot line, although I did like in this book how they become more tied into the main sort of plot. And Javis, I love Javis. I really enjoyed that. Anyway, I'm just gonna ramble on about it forever if I don't shut myself up, so that's that one. I read Little Thieves, which I also loved. I gave this one like, I gave it like five stars, but like rounded down to 4.5. But well, so like five, same with Bone-Shard Emperor actually. Like on Goodreads I give it 5 stars, but like in my description 4.5, because like a 5-star 4.5 is different from a 4-star 4.5. I don't know how to explain it, but it's real. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Definitely one of my favourite YA fantasies I've read this year. It was just so much fun. Like I had a massive smile on my face the whole time while reading. I laughed out loud so many times. So we're basically following Vanja, who is this like con artist, and she has taken the place of this princess running a con on the nobles. So she It's a retelling of The Goose Girl, I believe, which I have read another retelling of The Goose Girl called Thorn, which I really like that one as well. So it's obviously a story I quite enjoy, but I think I like this one even more. Like, it's my favourite retelling of The Goose Girl. Not that I've read many of them, but it's just so enjoyable. I think one of the main things for me, I love the characters. Vanya is such a like iconic character. She's so funny. Vanya's just is quite an unrepentant thief. So in addition to trying to pull off this big con, she's also like robbing the nobles at the same time. And the gods take notice of this because Vanya's also like the goddaughter of death and fortune. But one of the other gods like curses Vanya, so she's slowly gonna turn into a jewel. Unless she like changes her ways, basically. So that's kind of like Vanya's story, but then there's also a lot of stuff going on in like the realm. I can't remember what it's called. It's very like German inspired though, which I think is quite interesting because you don't often see that. You often see like Venetian type cities or like Prague-y, but I thought it was really cool to see a slightly more like German, Austrian type setting. So there's various things going on in the city, like there's this slightly evil prince who Vanya is engaged to, although as the princess, and then there's also the actual princess who's been turned into like a servant girl because that's the sort of goose girl thing. She's also, I really liked her as well. And then so Vanya has this curse and she's trying to break the curse, and she also then gets this little companion from the god that curses her called Ranji, and Ranji is like the god's daughter. So she's like half human, half god, I think, and she can like shapeshift. Ranji's so funny. And then at the same time, Vanya's being hunted by the like authorities, although the authorities don't know it's Vanya they're hunting, but they're hunting this jewel thief. And the person who's like hunting her down is called Emmerich, and he's like this trainee apprentice, like I can't remember what they're called. They're like investigators essentially. So, and he's so funny. And Vanya and Emmerich's like whole dynamic is hilarious. Like there's just so many funny scenes, and Vanya just absolutely takes the mick out of Emmerich, and I just love their dynamic. They're like one of my favourite couples of the year. Emmerich's just like this really like naive little cinnamon roll and all. So yeah, I just really like their dynamic, and I just like the whole story. It was so much fun to read. And it actually had a really solid plot as well, and there's some like surprisingly emotional moments. So I just overall highly recommend that one. After I read Girls of Fate and Fury, which is book 3 and the final book in the Girls of Paper and Fire series, so I think I gave this one about 3.5 stars. So I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the series, but I think it's just maybe slightly grown out of it maybe, or just it's not quite as like detailed as I would like. I don't know, sometimes I felt like this with YA a bit recently. Sometimes it's not as quite as in-depth as like I like my books. You may have noticed that I don't always like short books that much. Like I like a bit of meat to them. I did enjoy like seeing how everything wrapped up, but it just felt like it all happened so fast. Like there's this like massive almost war thing going on in it, and it's just everything's happening really quickly, and you feel like what's going on? You don't really get a chance for the characters to like simmer in that angst. This is probably, actually I probably feel like this from reading Robin Hobb, and her character, well, Fitz, has an awful lot of time to simmer in his angst. But yeah, so I just felt like everything happened very quickly, and you didn't quite get a chance to just sort of breathe and like reflect on what was going on. But sort of, and like the ending, it was just, it all happened just so quickly. So in a way it felt a bit rushed, but I did like sort of how it ended. So I almost liked the like bullet point plots, but then how it was executed, I just thought it wasn't written quite as detailed as I would have liked. But the writing is very beautiful in itself. And I like Lee and Ren's relationship, although I did think some things that I enjoyed in book 2 actually in terms of like conflict in the relationship were just resolved incredibly quickly. Yeah, overall I would still recommend the series, especially if you like YA fantasy. I think it's good, and I feel like it's one of the almost sapphic classics of YA fantasy. I don't know, when you think of like sapphic YA fantasy, that's always one that like jumps to the top of the list. I don't really talk about the plot because it's book 3, but Yeah, so that's that one. Okay, and then I read Frostheart III, which is the final book in the Frostheart trilogy. Oh, I feel sad though, say, but this was one of my like favourite middle grades. I gave this one 4.25 stars and I really enjoyed it. I like seeing how far Ash has come, and I just love these books, they're so pretty. And they have loads of like illustrations throughout, which I think really add to the story. And I just really enjoyed this one. Like the stakes were really high for a middle grade. And like some of the sort of, not exactly twists and turns, but the kind of direction the plot went in was really interesting. And like the how Ash is almost like an advocate for what's right rather than what's like, I don't know, it's all very classic like middle grade. But I just really enjoy it. I love the sort of frosty atmosphere. It's a great like autumn wintry read. Ash is so cute. I know the other characters as well, like Luna. I really like her. She's like Ash's best friend. I like the whole theme of like how Ash is almost like fighting the monster inside himself. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. Like he has this dark magic but he has to use it for good, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed the series. Would highly recommend if you like middle grade. I'm not doing very well with my like descriptions today. Basically the first one we're following Ash, who's a song weaver, and the song weaving is like a magic that you sing and then you can control these like creatures called leviathans. And Ash is on the hunt for his parents and they've gone missing, so he joins the crew of this Frostheart, because I think he gets kicked out his village as well for being a song weaver. So then he joins the crew of the Frostheart, and then they go on their adventures as the Frostheart. And then there's this like bad guy who's trying to release this thing called the Devourer into the world. Well, just quite a fun adventure, but it's great fun. And I just said fun like way too many times, but I would still recommend the series if you like middle grade. So yeah. Okay, and then the next book I read is Something to Talk About, which is a sapphic romance. This one I actually really liked, and then I read reviews and they were like absolutely trashing it, and I was like, did I like it? But no, I did enjoy it, so I gave it like 3.75 stars, because it's not like my favourite romance I've ever read, but I did like it. I do feel like it's not the most like passionate romance, but I actually like the sort of friends to lovers type thing, but just really sweet in a way. That's kind of more what it is. So it's basically this like I think she's like a movie director or something, and her assistant Emma, and basically they have to, Emma goes with her to like a red carpet event to act as like a buffer, because the main character Jo, she's like been, so she's the like director, and she's just been recruited to direct the next like the James Bond film in the world. It's not actually called James Bond, but it's essentially that. I think it's called like Agent Silver or something. So Emma's acting as like a buffer for the press, and then they get like photographed together and everyone thinks they're in a relationship. So then it's like that angst of, do we have to fake a relationship or are we pretending not to be in a it's all a big tangle. But yeah, I liked it, and I liked all the like Hollywood drama and glamour of it. There's like scenes where they just like go shopping for dresses and get like makeovers, and I don't know, I really enjoyed that element to it. Yeah, so it's like, it's a fairly standard romance, I would say, but I enjoyed it, and it's sapphic, so. And then the final books I'm going to talk about is, I started doing a Murderbot reread. So I read All Systems Red and Artificial Condition, which are books 1 and 2. I've read them before, I really enjoyed them again this time. I love Murderbot, it's such a funny character. So Murderbot is essentially this like an AI who is in like he's a sec bot, I think. Oh no, he's not a he, he's a it. Doesn't have a gender. I think I always think he because of the audiobook narrator. It's essentially this like security bot who names themselves Murderbot in their head, and they have like major social anxiety. They don't like interacting with the humans. They just want to like sit in their little pod and watch their like soap dramas. There's this thing called Sanctuary Moon where they just like watching their like downloaded media, but they do reluctantly get themselves involved in the human events. And yeah, it's just so much fun. I especially like book 2 because Murderbot is going off on their own little adventure, and they come across Art, who is the asshole research transporter. So Art is like a ship who Murderbot has a kind of friendship with, which I really love. Them together, their just like interactions are so funny. They're really short novellas, but I just enjoy them because like Murderbot's such an iconic character that just carries the whole series, and like so many of the lines and things are so funny, and it's just so relatable in a way. But yeah, so I'm enjoying my reread of that. Yeah, so that is everything for this video. So I hope you enjoyed. And let me know in the comments a book you read recently and you really liked, or let me know a book you read recently and slightly disappointed you. I would love to know. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you're all having a really great day, and I will see you next time.